Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes we look at these really specific chemical compounds, and you'd never guess how much impact they actually have on the global economy. Today, we're tackling a bit of a mouthful. Trisodium trimetaphosphate, TSTP for short. Now, I know the name doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it? But believe me, when you start looking at its market, it gets really fascinating. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right, and our guide for this journey today is the Global Trisodium Trimetaphosphate Market Forecast 2025-2033. It's a report from Cognitive Market Research. And it's not just, dry numbers. It really opens a window onto how certain industrial chemicals, they sort of quietly support huge global growth. We'll be looking at the significant growth path and how things differ region by region for this specific market.
Exactly. So our mission, really, for you listening, is to pull out the key nuggets from all these projections. We want to get past just the data and figure out the so what behind it all. Basically give you a shortcut to understanding a corner of the industrial world it's really thriving. So let's start big picture. The overall global growth for TSTP. And these figures might actually surprise you a bit. Global sales revenue, it's expected to more than double. We're talking from about $124.5 million back in 2021, all the way up to a projection of $261.3 million by 2033.
Yeah, and that translates to a really strong compound annual growth rate, the CAGR of 6.37% over that whole period.
Cool.
For a market that's this, specific, that kind of consistent growth tells you there's deep expanding demand. That's not just some flash in the pan. But maybe it helps to quickly touch on what TSTP actually is. Basically, it's an inorganic phosphate. Think of it as a multi-tool for industry. It's great at binding metal ions, that chelation stops unwanted reactions. So then preventing scale in pipes, improving food texture, even making detergents clean better.
Right, so it's working behind the scenes in loads of things we use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's break down where this growth is happening, because it's not the same everywhere. And that's where you find the real insights.
Let's kick off with North America, this region. It's seeing some really robust expansion. The market size is basically set to double over the forecast period. It's projected to climb from just under $32 million in 2021 up to over $66 million by 2033. That keeps it at a solid 6.3% CAGR.
Okay. And within North America, I assume the U.S. is the big player.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. accounts for the largest chunk, growing from about $25.7 million to a projected $52.3 million. That's a 6.17% CAGR, roughly.
But you mentioned something interesting about Mexico earlier.
Yes, exactly. Mexico really stands out in North America. Its projected CAGR is noticeably higher, 7.05%. So sales there are going from around $2.75 million up to $6.4 million. It suggests, maybe a more dynamic surge in industrial activity compared to the more mature U.S. and Canadian markets.
Interesting. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe.
Europe's market is also growing quite steadily. It's set to nearly double as well, from about $22 million in 2021 to around $43.3 million by 2033. The CAGR there is slightly lower, 5.95%.
And are there variations within Europe, like, say, France versus Germany?
Good question. Yes, there are. France shows stronger growth, actually. It's got a 6.145% CAGR. It's expected to more than double its sales from $3.1 million to over $6.3 million. Germany, even though it's a huge industrial base, has a slightly lower rate, about 5.53%. Still growing from $1.66 million to $3.07 million, but, a different pace.
Right. It highlights those nuances, doesn't it? Different industrial mixes or maybe regulations playing a role?
Precisely. Now, Asia-Pacific. Another major growth area. This market is expanding from roughly $25.8 million in 2021, 0.20, nearly $52 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of about 6.1%.
Okay, so for Asia-Pacific, which is such a dynamic region anyway, what's driving that? Any particular hotspots?
Absolutely. If you look closer, India is actually leading the pack within APAC. Its CAGR is projected at 6.48%. China is right behind at 6.41%, and Singapore is also very strong at 6.4%. So these countries are clearly, the engines for TSTP growth there, likely tied to manufacturing, food processing, that sort of thing.
Makes sense. How about South America?
South America is also showing consistent growth, mirroring the global trend. It's growing from about $6.5 million in 2021 to over $13.3 million by 2033. The CAGR there is 6.16%.
And Brazil's a big part of that. Yeah, I saw a number there.
Oh, yes, Brazil is significant. Its sales are projected to nearly triple, from $2.6 million to almost $5.6 million. That represents a strong 6.48% CAGR, really boosting the regional average.
Okay. What about the Middle East?
The Middle East market is following a similar upward path, expanding from just over $8 million in 2021 to about $17.1 million by 2033. That puts its CAGR at 6.43%.
And within that region, Turkey seems to be performing particularly well.
That's right. Turkey actually shows the highest TGR in the Middle East, 6.62%. Sales growing from about $1.6 million to $3.4 million. Egypt is a very close second, though. It's 6.618% CEGR. So those two are definitely leading the charge there.
Right. Now, Africa, the numbers there looked quite striking.
They really are. Africa actually boasts the highest regional TGR globally, a remarkable 6.95%. The market there is projected to grow from $30.2 million in 2021 all the way up to $69.2 million by 2033. What's fascinating here is, well, it's the sheer speed of that growth. It points to a rapidly developing industrial base, rising consumer needs.
Wow, that's really something. Almost 7% annual growth across the continent for this. So where's that coming from mainly?
Within Africa. Well, the report specifically highlights South Africa. It actually has the highest KHER of any country globally, stunning 7.33%. Its market is set to expand from around $9 million to nearly $22 million. Nigeria is also a major driver. Its CAGR is 6.97%, very close to the regional average, growing from just under $10 million to almost $23 million. You can see this tying into, infrastructure projects, more food processing, growth in local industries generally.
Okay, let's unpack this a little more then. We've seen these, frankly, impressive numbers across the board, different paces, but generally strong growth everywhere. So what's the fundamental story? What's the underlying why? What's driving this consistent demand for TSTP globally?
Well, the report boils it down pretty clearly. It attributes the growth to, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here, rising applications of trisodium trimetaphosphate globally. And this is supported by just consistent demand across key sectors: food, industrial applications, and specialty chemicals. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really demonstrates how even these quite specialized chemicals, like TSDP, they're actually fundamental. They're building blocks for a huge range of everyday products, industrial processes, stuff you probably don't even think about.
Can you give some more examples? Like, where would we encounter its effects?
Sure. I mean, what's fascinating here is the breadth. In the food industry, for example, it helps stop seafood drying out when it's frozen. Better texture, less spoilage. That's huge for global food supply chains. Then in, say, industrial cleaning, it's a powerful water softener in detergents. Makes the work better, reduces wear on machinery from hard water. It even pops up in some fire retardants. And in construction, believe it or not, as a dispersant for cement, makes it easier to work with. So the demand comes from all these areas growing globally. More processed food, more industry, higher standards for product quality and safety.
Right. So we've done this deep dive into trisodium trimetaphosphate, and it's clear, isn't it? This seemingly obscure chemical has this surprising vitality, significant global growth. And it really does show how these specific data points, they light up broader economic trends, these kind of invisible forces working away in industries worldwide, from, like you said, food processing to construction, really shows the interconnectedness, doesn't it? Even down to this level.
It absolutely does. And, this raises an important question maybe for you, the listener, to think about. Consider how many other chemicals or materials, things that seem niche or obscure, how many of them are quietly propping up massive global markets, affecting the products you use every day? What does understanding these sort of hidden industries, understanding their growth, tell us about how complex and interconnected the global economy really is? There's always more going on just beneath the surface, shaping things in ways we might not immediately see.